What's your favorite creepy campfire story? Gosh, let's see if I can recall it correctly. There was a body of a fairly large person, once found in the woods. They were quickly killed, and there was nothing extremely off about the scene, except he had half of his pointer, ring, and pinky finger all missing from his left hand. No one could find the missing fingers, and they never found any clues. A few weeks later, another body was found, another man who was a bit smaller than the previous guy. Same situation, quickly killed, and 3 fingers missing all from the left hand, and still no clues. A few more weeks went by, and this time it was a woman who was found, smaller than the second guy found, same fingers missing from the same hand. This went on for a while, with the victims getting smaller and smaller, until it was kids' bodies being found. One teenager's body though, only had the ring finger and pinky finger removed. The police found a fingerprint at this crime scene, and they found it matched the prints from a theft record from the previous victim. The guy telling the story then told the kids that the killer was searching to replace his fingers, and so far, he had yet to see if the fingers of children their age would fit. He then took off his glove, showing he had a scarred pointer finger and was missing half his ring and pinky finger, and then lunged at the kids while screaming. He later told the kids he lost the 2 in a work accident, and doctors were able to save his very mangled pointer finger. He told this story every year at camp. I've posted this before. One year, a group of us went camping in Kearney, Ontario, where we always go camping. Whenever we go, we always form our tents in a big circle, with the fire pit in the middle of us. We've been drinking, smoking a few joints, and a few of us were tripping balls on shrooms. The first night we were there, this guy randomly walks into our circle, introduces himself, I can't remember the name he gave, that he was in the military and decided to take some vacation to camp out a bit. He asked if he could join our fire, as it was getting late and he didn't buy any firewood. Being the friendly stoned people we are, we let him join our fire. He even pitched in some money for the firewood. The night went on and we all were having a good time. One by one, our group started heading off to bed, me being either the second or third. I remember waking up to the sound of someone talking and the fire being started. It was 4 in the morning. I peeped out my tent and saw the random just sitting on a log by the fire, talking to himself. Still tripping on shrooms, I thought to myself, I am in no condition to deal with this, and chalked it up to me just tripping out. I wake up the next day and everyone is still alive, thankfully, and the fire is smoldering. We look to the next campsite, where the random was staying, and it was spotless, no garbage, no tracks in the trail around the site, no nothing. We all started talking about him, just to be sure we all saw him. Through talking, we managed to figure out that he must not have slept at all. The last 2 of our group passed out just after 330 am. The first person got up just after 6 am and noticed he was gone. The rest of the camping trip went well and we all went home. Fast forward maybe 4 to 5 years, I flip on the news and there is a picture of someone I could swear I recognize. He was arrested for a bunch of crimes, including rape and murder. Guess who it was? It was the random guy who joined our fire. I don't know why I remembered his face, but I guess it was just a weird situation where my brain right-clicked and saved as a JPEG in my brain. Now, I have no way of proving if it was the same guy. We didn't take any pictures of the random, but the picture jump-started my memory and made me instantly remember the weird random fire joiner. Either that, or they looked identical to the same person. Either way, was creepy. My family had one called the man in the corn, or beans in the corn. There was once a hobo who was stealing ears of corn from a local man's garden. Now food was hard to come by, and someone stealing that which you're growing was especially frustrating. The man saw the hobo in the garden and fired a shotgun shot over the hobo's head. The next day, the hobo was back there again stealing ears of corn. The man decided he would teach the hobo a lesson, so he poured all the lead shot out of his shotgun shells and filled them with small dry beans. The very next day the hobo was back in the cornfield again, and the man fired twice on the hobo, and the hobo screamed and ran down the corn rows fast, pleading the whole way. The man watched for days, but the hobo was never seen again. Some days later, the man still had bin shells in his shotgun, so he aimed at a plank of wood standing over by his well. The plank ripped to pieces. When the next planting seasons came, the farmer walked his cornfield to its far corners, to cut corn husks and prepare to plow. Along the way, he found tiny bean plants coming up through the soil, one here, another there, all lining up to lead him to a big bunch of beans coming up along the edge of the field. When he went to examine the bunch of beans, he first saw shoes soles turned to one side, and then the outline of a body, sank in the mud and soil. He realized he had killed the hobo, and the random beans that had fallen out of his body had sprouted along the way. My father had bought that particular farm during the war years, and he said for 20 years, random bean plants would show up in that field. Any bean plant that showed up in our garden was given the chance to grow, and one year there was a bean planted that wrapped around a corn stalk. My father did not harvest the corn ears on that plant. There were a couple that were, as far as I know, unique to the church camp, Camp Gala Maxon, I went to as a kid. Though I admit it's possible some of our stories were ubiquitous ones just adapted to the place, I don't really know. One of them, though, I do have first-hand knowledge about. It's the story of Sydney. The camp was established on an old piece of property that has been a lot of different things over the years. Back during the war, it was a girls' boarding school. One girl who was there was deeply in love with a boy who had gone off to fight. They exchanged letters constantly, until one day the letters stopped coming. Few weeks later, she gets word that her beloved was killed in action. She was so distraught that she hanged herself in her dorm room. There's still a plaque by the door of the room in her memory. Now, I know for a fact that room is haunted. I stayed in that room one year when I worked for the camp. One night after lights out, the fan came on by itself. It started spinning faster and faster until it started wobbling really hard, acting like it's about to fall off. I knew the stories, so I shouted, "Stop it, Sydney. I'm a friend." Fan immediately stopped. Not just slowed down and came to an eventual stop. It's like someone grabbed the fan blades and stopped it. We were gonna make s'mores one time, but as we were getting the stuff to make it we would hear a chomp, chomp, chomp noise. Dad didn't know what it was but was scared. So he called our dog Hank, who was a lovable pit bull, comes around the corner where we heard the noises. So my dad went to check it out and it turns out Hank was eating the marshmallows. I don't know if this will be seen, but hoping one or two people see this. For starter, our house is from the 1800s and we've been renovating it for the last 3-5 years, and we've heard that a previous owner died here. One night I was coming downstairs to get a glass of water when I saw a white figure floating about an inch off the ceiling, which is 8 feet tall. I was a little shaken up, and I ran upstairs and back to bed. About a year later, my parent bought a camper with a built-in radio. After about 2 months of having the camper, the radio in it mysteriously turned on. My dad heard it and then turned it off. Then a few days later, the radio turned back on, and the cycle repeated until the battery died. After a year after the radio kept going off, I had finally moved into my bedroom after it was finished. One night I was watching YouTube, and I heard a shushing noise when all of my family was asleep. I heard the shushing noise a few times after that. The last thing that had happened was in July. I was on a FaceTime call with one of my friends, and I was fidgeting with some coins I had. I stood one up on its edge, and was going to stand another one up, but I fell too many times, so I gave up and swiped it onto the floor. After that I went downstairs to refill my water bottle because my mouth was dry from talking. I go back upstairs. About 5 minutes later I went back upstairs to find the coin that was on the floor back on my desk standing on its edge. I went downstairs and asked if anyone had gone up to my room, and everybody said no. So I went back up to my room and heard that same shushing sound. Now one of my best friend has been telling me that he's been hearing a shushing sound occasionally when he's home alone. A man. They stop on the side of road. He turns to his girl and says, "Baby, I love you very much. What is it, honey?" "Our car is broken down. I think the engine is broken. I'll walk and get some more fuel." "Okay. I'll stay here and look after our stereo. There have been news report of stereos being stolen." "Good idea. Keep the doors locked no matter what." "I love you, sweetie." So the guy left to get full for the car. After 2 hours the girl say, "Where is my baby? He was supposed to be back by now." Then the girl hears a scratching sound and a voice saying, "Let me in." The girl doesn't do it, and then after a while she goes to sleep. The next morning she wakes up and finds her boyfriend still not there. She gets out to check and man door hand hook car door. Typical Filipino stories. Almost all schools are Catholic schools in my country, and they're either built over a cemetery and or used to be a barracks/hospital during World War II. Maria Labo, though I think this one is just from our island, but I do remember reading about it in a national horror magazine, so it must have spread. Poor woman goes to London to work as a caregiver. She comes back as an aswang/ghoul. Cooks up her children. Her husband finds out and slices her face with a labo or machete. Now she roams the countryside searching for her next meal. This caused so much panic in my town that the radio station had to issue a statement that it was just a folk tale. Chonok, if you're out hiking in the woods during dusk or night and you hear a baby crying, do not help it, just run away. It will eat you. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. Also, leave a comment to suggest what video we should do next. Please check some of our other videos out.